Hey, welcome back to the Club Junkie podcast. Hopefully you're having a great week. It is Thursday again, like always, and we're here with another episode. So before we get into the details, just want to let you know this episode is brought to you by Titleist and the Pro V1 golf balls. We all aspire to outperform the player we were yesterday. This takes practice, commitment, and trusting your golf ball will perform the way you need it to on every type of shot. The Titleist Pro V1 and Pro V1 X offer advanced technology and performance that rewards your best swings and helps you shoot lower scores. Both models are exceptionally long, deliver consistent flight, and feature unrivaled control. Pro V1 is the best combination of distance, spin, and feel in the game and delivers a penetrating flight, where Pro V1 X, the ball I usually play, flies higher and spins more in the short game, while still delivering you low, long spin shots to maximize your distance. Find out more about Pro V1 and Pro V1 X, including which is the best choice for your game, at Titleist.com. So yeah, we got another week, another Thursday. The weather here in Detroit is still crap. It's actually snowing right now. So my daughter already has school off today. I've been recording this in the night. So school's already been called off. I feel like they call off school for anything nowadays. When I was a kid, never happened. I think I told the story on the last episode. Like, my principal lived like a mile away from the school, and he figured if he could get there, anybody can get there. We never had snow days. So, but they're already off. So, hey, good for them. Now we get to entertain them at home. So, but no, it's been good. I've been hitting a lot of new product. There's so much new stuff out there. And it's funny. I've you guys have kind of forced me into hitting more product because I do my Q&As on Instagram. And if you're not following me, please do. At Club Junkie Pod on Instagram, and every Wednesday I try to do like a Q&A, take people's questions, whatever, and so many questions coming in about new product. And for the past previous weeks, I've been trying to get through it, but just trying to hit stuff. And there's so many things that you asked me about and I hadn't hit yet, so I've made it a point to kind of get out there, hit more stuff. So I have to hit everything indoors. Thankfully, there's a place near me here in Metro Detroit that has bays, and during the day, I went out there again yesterday afternoon, and they're TrackMan based. They've got like 8 bays, and you can do whatever you want. You can go hit balls, you can sim, you can play games, you can do whatever you want on that TrackMan. So I just go there and hit balls and collect data and hit more balls. So I try to get out there as much as I can and bring a bunch of equipment every time, and try to get a few sessions in with everything. So I usually go and I literally just pound balls for an hour because I rent a thing out for I think it's like 50 minutes or whatever it is. And I just literally go to town. Like, there's no messing around. I don't talk to anybody. I just like throw the headphones in and just hit balls and change up equipment and all that. So that's pretty much what I've been doing the past few days, just going out there and doing that. So I can't say that it's like the most fun in the world. I would rather like hit balls on a real range, but realistically right now when it's 30 degrees and snowing, you either have a dome where you can at least see like 70 yards of ball flight, or you go to something like this, which thankfully there's a lot of them around. If you live in the north, it seems like places like this have been opening up a lot. So you can kind of go scratch the itch a little bit and get some swings in, get some numbers, dial in some clubs, or whatever you want to do. And I've been doing that. So I haven't simmed much at all, actually. Like, I know the previous years I'd go with like a buddy of mine and we'd go actually play like 9 holes somewhere, simulate 9 holes somewhere or whatever. But this time, man, it's just been like all business. Just get down and start hitting stuff. So I've been hitting a bunch of stuff. What we'll talk about today, we're going to talk about the Callaway Elite drivers. Have been hitting those, getting ready for this week, and then have started hitting the ping stuff already. That'll maybe go next week. I got to see. Next week I will be traveling a little bit for work. I'll be down we got a big Wilson trip coming up with some Golf WRX members, which is pretty cool. Got that coming up next week. That should be a whole lot of fun to kind of see what's going on there. And then the week after that, heading down to see some new stuff from MaxFly. So going to be a pretty interesting 2 weeks, but it's going to also limit how much time I have to go hit balls and stuff like that. So so love to see and try to plan accordingly. But yeah, I know a lot of people have asked about the Elite drivers, a lot about the Elite fairway woods. I just got the titanium one in, hit some shots with that today as well for the first time. So far, really impressed. What else did I hit today? Kind of hit everything. I bring like a full bag of like just stuff. Like, I don't even bring a full set of irons, or I don't bring a putter or anything like that. I bring like one wedge to warm up, and then a couple irons to warm up with, and that's it. but yeah, I've been hitting that. I hit the little bit with the new PXG Secret Weapon mini driver. That's pretty good. I'm excited to hit some more with that. And then a little bit of the ping stuff, and yeah, I've just been hitting a lot of stuff. So got a lot of product in, still got a lot of product to go through. I still got ping to finish up with, got the Strixon woods, and I've got the Wilson woods still to go through. So still have a lot of stuff. And then you break into fairway woods with all the brands and everything else. So I'm going to be rocking and rolling until spring with just about no problem. But we do have the brand new Elite drivers from Callaway. So we've got technically 4 models. I really consider it 3. I only hit 3 of the 4. The Max Fast I left off, but got the Elite, the Elyte Triple Diamond, and then of course the Elyte X. So all 3 of these I had, and I've had these things for a little bit now, and I've got a few kind of range sessions on them, which is nice. But these things are really good. I like the new look. I know there's not. There's some interesting things that are different, but nothing too, I think, crazy wild, which I think this year is kind of that's the story. I think the new thermal forged carbon crown looks pretty sweet. I actually like it better than the weave from last year. The weave from last year, I'm not going to say it's distracting because after you play it a little bit, you don't care. This, I think, is a little bit more subtle, and it will be a little bit more subtle in the sunlight. But they got that thermo forged carbon crown on the top of the X and the standard Elite. And then it's got the same crown on the Triple Diamond. They just painted all gloss black for kind of a smoother, sleeker look, so you don't see as much. It all kind of blends in, which is pretty cool. They definitely each have kind of their unique shape to them, where the Triple Diamond being kind of the most compact, more traditional looking. It also still has the 360-degree carbon wrap on it. So the sole in this one, carbon in the middle, a little bit of metal where the weight is in the back, and then the titanium face. Where on the Elite and Elite X, you're going to get a titanium sole. So a little different design here this year. Movable weights have gone from a track to just a 2 or 3 position rear movable weight. On the X, you get 2. You get a neutral and a draw. And then on the standard Elite, you're going to get a draw, fade, and neutral option for the weight there. And then the standard one, you also get a little weight going forward, which you could change up. I mean, like on this head here, the rear weight's 13 grams, the front weight is 2 grams. You could probably always get something a little bit heavier for the front to take a little bit of spin off or something like that. But then you'd have to kind of probably find a lighter rear weight as well to get the swing weight right. But the options are there. If you're willing to tinker and willing to get on the rabbit hole, it's there. And then, the big story as well from Callaway is the 10X AI face. So last year, if you remember, they had little micro deflection areas that were improved distance and ball speed and stuff when you hit them there. And this time they've gone to more of them on the face. So I think it was like 12 different spots last year, and now we've gone to even more. So they've kind of made those circles smaller and kind of adjusted them more through their kind of AI process. So titanium faces on all 3. And I mean, I think they look pretty good. I mean, they're Callaway. When you set them down, they've got that Callaway shape, the Callaway look. Which I think you either love or you don't. But I don't mind it. I think it kind of sets them apart, makes them a little unique. Excuse me. And all 3 of these being 10.5 heads, so they were kind of apples to apples testing in terms of hitting them side by side. Elite Triple Diamond, same thing. They're back to the same way. We have 2 movable weights, heavy one in the back. At least I've got the heavy weight in the back, lightweight in front. This one's a 14 and a 2. And I want to say stock, this came with the new Artera EC1 blue shaft. I kind of pulled out the screw and put the all-fit screw in there so I can hit just about anything. Or anything in my collection, which will include an Artera EC1 blue. I just ordered some more all-fit tips, so those came in. And I can now shaft one of those up with an all-fit tip, so I don't have to worry about just having Callaway tips or whatever. But I mean, basically you're looking for, in terms of, these 3 drivers, you're probably looking at, you look at the standard Elite, and that is going to be kind of the widest range of golfers. You're probably going to see these on tour. You're going to see these in beginner bags. You're going to see these just about anywhere. If you look on Callaway's site, they say like 0 to 20 handicap. But I mean, these things, like I said, I think you're going to see them everywhere in terms of handicap range. And you'll see a few on tour. A few players play this bad boy, but it's the best kind of blend of distance and forgiveness. I feel like this face is just a touch shallower than last year. I'll have to kind of measure it and see. I haven't done that yet. And then you move to the Triple Diamond, which I know is the kind of like the Golf WRX, special. This here is going to be basically, anything from tour players to highly skilled amateurs. I mean, they say on Callaway site it's a +5 to a 10, and I ride that fine line of sometimes being a 10 and sometimes being an 11. And at one point I was an 8 a year ago. So just depends on, on the game and where it's at. But this thing here, definitely a little bit more compact. I believe it's still 460 cc's, or no, it's 450 cc's. It is a little bit smaller, so a little bit more compact shape, but still a ton of distance there. And then the Elyte X, which is going to be kind of the more forgiving, kind of higher launching, and a little bit more. They say it's neutral or draw bias, like the weight being in the center is neutral, and then down at the heel you shift it and it's draw. But when you sit it down, it definitely has a little bit of a shut face compared to the other two. The other two sit very square. Triple Diamond sits very open. This one actually sits just a little bit closed. So as much as they say it may have a neutral ball bias, the face is going to look a little shut. I think it's going to help people with that slice when they get it in their hands. So, but all three of them, kind of brand new. All three of them kind of exciting. I know some people were, I think, expecting different. Some people don't like the green. I don't really care. There's not much green on it, and it's all in the sole, so there's not a whole lot on the top that's really distracting or bad, anything like that. But I like the whole thing. I think it's really, really good. I think it's pretty exciting to see new drivers, and it's pretty exciting to hit them. So, so I'm going to say I've had these out a little bit recently, hitting kind of all of them. Very surprised in terms of what I've hit the best so far, and that's kind of the interesting thing. Between these, I thought I was going to be one of two drivers and end up being something totally different, which is probably pretty easy to guess of which one that I've hit the best so far. But yeah, I mean, we'll start with the Elite, and I do have to say the Elite it's really good. It blends forgiveness. It's pretty neutral in terms of its flight, but it's pretty easy to hit. The ball speed numbers, across the face are pretty darn good. When you set it down, it sets up very square. I know with some of the Paradigm, like AI Smokes I saw, they did sit a little shut. This one actually sits really square for me. I kind of like that about it. But overall, I think the look is really good from address. Sound and feel is pretty solid. It's got a little ting to it, a little bit of metallicness to it, a little bit higher pitched than maybe last year. I think last year might be a touch more muted with that full carbon. I think with the titanium sole on it, it adds a little bit of sound to it, a little bit of metallic or metal notes to it, a little bit higher pitch than last year, but it's still pretty muted. It's not too loud. And again, I've been hitting it indoors in closed bays, and usually that really amplifies sound and kind of jacks it up. And this thing, I have not noticed anything that's been like offensive or anything like that. It's really good in terms of sound and feel. The feel on the face is pretty darn good. I feel like this one here, it's maybe just a touch a touch less responsive than AI Smoke was. I feel like AI Smoke, when I caught it kind of high toe, which was a lot of my miss last year, or hit it dead center, you kind of feel a good difference. This one here, I feel like with the Elite, you need the ball needs to be just a touch more away from center before you start really feeling, oh, that was off the toe or that was off the heel. And nowadays I'm a little bit lower on the face of my misses and a little bit lower heel. So I felt like it doesn't give that feedback quite as easily as AI Smoke does. But again, sound and feel are still pretty good. Sound is great. A little bit more, like I said, a little higher pitch, but, it kind of gives you that titanium kind of sound and feel. And like I said, the face, you don't quite as much responsiveness as AI Smoke, but it's not a huge deal. And when when you missed it, you can more than likely feel it in the swing before you even get going there. So, like I said, responsiveness is pretty decent. And then performance is good. I mean, this thing is pretty darn forgiving. You can hit it just about anywhere in the face, and the ball goes fairly straight. When you hit it dead center, ball speed's fantastic. You'll easily see those 149, 150 smash factors. And when you miss it off miss it more toe, more heel, again, for me, it's kind of more in the lower heel area, you still see some pretty good numbers. I was pretty impressed. I didn't see monster drop-offs unless you really, really, got it low on the face or really, really far away from center. The consistency of the ball speed was really, really good. The other thing that was pretty nice was that in terms of consistency of it as well, like when I look at like the smash factor from just hitting balls today, I mean, everything with this was, I think my lowest was like a 1.4 145, 144. I mean, so 144 was my lowest. And I saw numerous 148, 149, 149, 147. So consistency in terms of the ball, holding on to ball speed was really, really good. Ball speed in general, I thought was really, really solid. And then the same thing with launch. The interesting thing too with these three drivers, I felt like launch was actually very similar between all three, which is interesting because when I hit the TaylorMade drivers a couple weeks ago, I felt that there was a decent amount of parity, but between at least like I think it was like QI35 and LS or something. Like LS launched significantly less than like Max or whatever. There was like a big difference. This one here, it was literally less than a degree difference in terms of launch for these three heads for me, which is kind of interesting. I thought they definitely were going to be a little bit different. I thought X would launch really high, and you'd have like the middle one, but that's just why you got to go hit drivers because sometimes you just don't see what's supposed to happen on paper doesn't necessarily happen on paper. So consistency was really there, and then the same thing with spin. I mean, the average differential in spin was about a total of something. My lowest spin on there was 2400 ish, and I had one flared out right, never shut the face. The ball went. I mean, funny is it had very little curve on it, but it just went dead right. And was over 3,000. Was 3206. So that was the only one over 3,000. Everything else pretty much stayed in kind of that mid. But this was actually interesting enough for me the spinningest head out of all of them. Attack angle stayed pretty close to the same. It's funny the attack angle on this was just slightly shallower than Triple Diamond. But an X I had the kind of the most. It was 2 degrees. I was 2.8 with the Triple Diamond, and I was 2.2 with this. So pretty close on all those drives, but this one actually spun the most for me. But forgiveness was good. You could hit the ball, toe, heel, whatever, and the ball would have, a very little curve to it. I mean, it pretty much had a very kind of gentle draws, gentle fades, depending on where you hit it. And then my miss, kind of recently has been just kind of like not getting the face square and leaving balls out right. And it would do that, but it wouldn't put a ton of curve on it. Like it was just go right of target. So in terms of consistency, really consistent, very straight. The balls that I hit, and I was like, oh God, that's left off the planet. You look up, and it was a draw that basically landed, a little bit left of target. Call it, 20 yards, something like that. I mean, it would have been in the rough, but it definitely was in play. And those shots there, the non-center great strikes, were the ones that were impressive, that it had that much forgiveness, that it kept the ball straight, and that did, kept those balls in play where I thought they were going to be gone. When those swings, you just know that you kind of drop your head, and then you look up and you're like, wow, that ball probably just in the left rough. Like it would have been okay. The Elite did really, really well with that. I thought it was, definitely very forgiving, very stable, and yeah, I mean, produced some pretty good numbers. Interesting enough, the Elite was the worst for me out of the three, which I honestly thought this was going to be the one. I thought this would be the driver that I'd probably hit the best out of the three. But so far indoors, I've hit a different one better. But the standard Elite hit pretty well. The other thing too was with when I say consistency, the interesting thing was like the TrackMan there had the little Tracy thing up, which it kind of analyzes shots. You've got to hit so many. I don't know how many it is. Because I remember it kept just saying, kind of like one more, and then I'd hit one and be like one more, and I'll be like, okay, well I've hit two, but eventually it takes all your data, and my trajectory on this was like it grades like Tour Pro, like better than a Tour Pro, like 18 handicap, and I remember I was hitting some irons, and the consistency was like below, like I was like 50%. But the trajectory number was like 95%. Like it was like better than a Tour Pro controlling, consistent trajectory. So I don't know how legit that is, but it popped up, and the same thing was, consistency in terms of launch. This thing stayed really, really consistent. It was up like, like something in like the high 75%ish or whatever. It was pretty close to like Tour Pro. But it came up, and it was basically said like trajectory wise, I'm able to kind of hit that same trajectory time after time, which is interesting because I wasn't hitting the same shot. Like I was missing some of those balls right where the face I never got it squared up, and that ball would go right at target. And then my miss left was just like, it would actually start right down the line and then just draw over or start just right at target and draw back. So they weren't the exact same misses, but the trajectory on that, the launch angle, all that was pretty pretty consistent, which was very interesting because I didn't feel like it was that consistent, and it popped up and said it was. So Mist on this really good. I think it is, a good blend of distance, forgiveness, good looks. I think you get a little bit of everything from it. So for the Elite, we'll go through and just number wise. My carry number was 239.8. It definitely out of the three was not the longest. I think I was, like 5 yards difference between between this and the Elite X, but which was the longest one. But this thing was, it wasn't bad. I just had some misses that just, they kind of dive left, that I didn't hit super far. And I just didn't hit great shots with it in terms of, I saw the center a decent amount. I just wasn't seeing a ton of club head speed with it, and I just wasn't getting a ton of carry out of it. I think I need, to maybe go up just a little bit of loft. Maybe if I added just a degree on here, it would definitely help. So 239.8 was carry distance on that one, and spin 27.49, which again the highest out of the three, 27.49. I was kind of surprised at that too because I hit kind of an equal number of balls right and left, and usually if you draw it, it definitely takes some spin off. Ball speed on average on this one was 145.7. So definitely just not efficient with it in terms of ball speed. Launch was 12.1, which was actually the lowest out of the three. So I launched this one actually a little bit lower than even Triple Diamond, but I had an apex of 82 feet. Smash factor averaged of like 148, which was again kind of amazing when I look at here that the average is 148. So overall, it was pretty solid. I just wasn't efficient. I just never felt like I was hitting great shots with it. But I also didn't feel like the swings were that amazing. So, but put a bunch in there. But yeah, the Elite for me, a little bit spinnier, and a little bit shorter carry wise. But again, we're talking indoors. We're talking on a launch monitor, and I am a total person who gets into launch monitor swings. So for me, I definitely can see that becoming something that out on the course makes a much bigger improvement. So we'll definitely get it on the course and hit it as well. But I love the stability of it, and I love the fact that you can put some pretty bad swings in it and get away with it and hit some pretty solid shots. So the next one would be the Elite Triple Diamond. So the Triple Diamond is, of course, the better players, 450 cc's, as I just had to look online and make sure of that when we first started. But 450 cc's, much more compact, shorter, front to back or face to back on it, a little more compact, a little bit deeper face than the other two, but overall really good. It's got that matte black or that glossy black finish on there, which is pretty nice. And then this thing here. Setting up, this is the one that I kind of wanted to be the best. I mean, I set it down. It looks really good. It gives you that confidence. And I know with, I played Triple Diamond Max last year a lot, and I really liked it because it was kind of, it blended that lower spin and forgiveness. It kind of blended those two together, and I thought it played really well. I hit that thing pretty solid, and I was hoping that this would be maybe a little bit closer to that, and I could get away with playing it. And I hit some really good shots. I do have to say, hit some really solid shots. Sound and feel on this one, a little bit more muted. You're not going to hear as much. It's got more of kind of a lower pitch, kind of a heavier kind of thwack to it. You're not going to get as much of that metallic sound or metallic feel out of it. It's just much more muted. I think this one I think is a little bit more responsive than just standard Elite. I think you get a little bit more feel of when you miss it, out on, back in the heel, out on the toe, all those. I think you definitely can feel that through the vibration of the club a little bit better. But overall, I love the sound. The feel's good. Again, hitting it indoors, very muted, very quiet. There was a guy hitting another driver. I couldn't tell what it was a few bays down. And you definitely heard his driver way more than you heard this one. So muted sound and feel. And, in terms of looks, when you set it down, looks really good. Looks definitely open. I think a lot of the Triple Diamond stuff this year looks very open, whether it's fairways, whether it's driver. They look, a few degrees open. They definitely don't have that square to shut look to them at all. So, and I've heard that from a few people who have been hitting these that, does yours look really open? And I'm like, oh yeah, it does. I'm like, kind of like it. So, I'm a guy who used to miss way left. So seeing a face that's a little bit open definitely helps out. Now the starting line on this one, definitely very neutral. I feel like last year, the Triple Diamond was kind of very fade-ish, and it was, for me, like it just started out a little bit right, where Triple Diamond Max kind of went straight, or straighter. This, I felt starting line was very straight. It was very down the middle. And you could tell, like, just from, hitting shots where Elite was kind of down the middle as well. This one also was more down the middle. It wasn't, I don't feel, as fade biased as last year's Triple Diamond. So a little bit more neutral. And I know it doesn't have like any weight that you can move out like the Elite does. That you can make it, fade or draw or anything like that. But I think a lot of guys, even better players who are looking for more anti-left, are still gonna like this driver. Ball flight, I thought, again, was going to be flatter. It was actually pretty easy to elevate. I feel like last year's Triple Diamond comes out a little bit lower for me. And I also feel like it spins a little less, too. This is, I feel like, a little bit more playable in terms of spin and launch. And for that player who needs maybe a little bit of that, but they're still high speed, this could be a great option for them. So kind of same thing, hit it all over, kind of hit it all over the face a little bit, more kind of heel biased, smash factor wise, it was actually the same as Elite at 148. But this one definitely spun less. So my spin number with this one came in at 2429, so 2,429 RPM was my average. I did see one ball sneak under 2,000 RPM, but that was only one, and that was basically a ball that definitely went hard left. But everything else stayed really, really consistent. I mean, you look at, I had one ball and at 1839, and then the highest ball on there was 2763. So it's 900 RPM between my best or not best, but my highest and lowest shot. But the standard shots in there, when you look at them, are just, 2491, 2276, 2218, 2763, and then you're like 2317. And, you just go through and there's so many balls that are just sitting in that mid 2000s that it was just really consistent there in terms of spin consistency. And trust me, I wasn't hitting a dead center every time, and I was missing it off the heel a little bit. So a few of those, 27s, all that really crept up. The closer I got back to center, you would see kind of those balls more in the 2300 RPM range. So a good little mix there, but thankfully, like my miss that's kind of shifted down towards low in the face, low heel. You're not seeing those crazy high spin balls that just fall out of the sky, and you're still seeing good carry numbers and good distance out of those shots that you don't strike dead center, which I think is huge. I'm not a guy who connects the dead center of the face all the time, so any bit of help that I can kind of have there is pretty big. So this thing here definitely was something that you could definitely see some distance, definitely see some speed. Low spin, saw a couple 150 smashes in there, which is kind of nice. And those 150s were, of course, balls that had low, 24, 2200. So, I mean, those were balls that were pretty much struck really well and didn't have a lot of spin to them. But the launch went up easily. I think it was easy to elevate, easy to get in the air. I know with some players, that maybe it's too much. Again, this is a 10-5 head. They make a 9, but you could also take that heavy weight, push it forward, see how that helps. And if it does, lower a little bit of launch, a little bit of spin as well. But overall, really actually playable. And I thought it was pretty forgiving. Now, the misses on it, when you look at curvature, definitely a little bit more curve on it, a little bit bigger of a miss. When you looked at my misses, it was a little bit more than Elite. The ball went just a little bit further left. The same thing with the balls that went a little bit right. Now, the interesting thing, the ones that went a little bit right weren't quite as bad as the ones that kind of went left. So I was able to turn this thing over a little bit faster. But again, a little bit more movement from right to left. And when I look at kind of the bird's eye dispersion of Triple Diamond, it was definitely definitely second in the bunch. Like I said, Elite, for whatever reason, I was just I was a little bit wider. This one's a little bit tighter, not quite as tight as Elite X, but I definitely saw some of the longest drives out of Triple Diamond. So the couple there that carried the furthest were definitely with this head. So when you look at this head here, in terms of numbers for the Triple Diamond, my carry on average 241.3 with a 2,429 RPM spin rate. So pretty decent for me. Again, I'm not a super high, I'm a guy who, the heat of the summer, I'm probably back up to the 104, 105 times. I've seen that when I'm outdoors and it's warm out in Southern California. When I'm indoors, I just don't see that kind of same real speed. But 241.3 average carry, 2429 for spin, and then ball speed 151.1. So definitely saw the best ball speed on this. I got it kind of close to center. and then launch angle is 12.3. So this actually launched just 0.2 degrees, but launched pretty much the same as Elite for me, which was big, but it did have a flatter apex of 80 yards. So I think there was a few more kind of balls that I hit to the left that were a little bit lower anyway that kind of play into that 80 foot number, and then a smash factor of 148. So same for smash factor there, but honestly, pretty playable driver. I think this thing here is not going to be just, the single digit, or not just like the scratch player or the pro. I think you're going to be able to stretch this one a little bit further out nowadays. And I think, that athletic 10 handicap who has some speed and needs a little bit of spin control, I think is going to be able to play this a little bit better and find a little more accuracy with this as opposed to AI Smoke Triple Diamond. But like the look, like the performance, I think it performed really well, and it was really solid. So then we moved to the one I've been hitting the best, which of course I didn't expect at all, which is the Elyte X. So the Elyte X is kind of the max forgiving model in a sense. I mean, it's kind of the max forgiving guy. It's got a little more spin to it. It is meant to launch kind of mid-high, or basically meant to launch high, have a little bit more spin, but be kind of super forgiving. So this is supposed to be the most forgiving head. I believe it's a little lighter as well. I want to weigh it because when I hit everything with the same shaft. I hit everything with the Ventus Blue, the new Ventus Blue. I hit everything with that. And with that, when I put this head on, it felt a little bit lighter. So I want to weigh the heads because I think this one feels just a touch lighter. So I think swing weight was just slightly different, and I got to see what those are. But this thing was shocked at how repeatable it was. Like when I hit this thing, it was just extremely, extremely consistent, extremely repeatable. And all I did was hit basically little draws the whole time. I don't think I hit one. I think I hit one ball to the right. That actually, same thing, that the face was kind of left open and I hit it to the right. The rest of them were all just little draws. I mean, just literally just the same little draw. And it was, again, the same thing where there's ones that I hit and I was like, oh no, that's gone. And it didn't. It was basically just left side of the fairway, maybe into the rough. But the worst swings ended up in just interesting spots. They were in play. They were far down, and it was just one of those things where I hit this thing so well. And in terms of spin, spun it less than standard Elite, even though it technically on paper should spin more. It should launch higher, all that stuff. It didn't, and interesting enough, I had the shallowest attack angle with this. I was at 2.0 as opposed to the other ones, which were like 2.6 and 2.8 up on it. I was up on it 2 degrees, so a little bit flatter, but it just ended up having really, and the funny thing is, even like my smash factor was on average less, which is interesting. I just had a lot of 147s in there. So I was just missing it, like just on the toe a touch, but a ton of 147s. And so 147 was the smash. So it's, 148 on the other ones, 147 here, but technically the lowest smash, but I was just extremely consistent. I look on the ball, one ball over 3,000 RPMs, and it was 3,052. And then everything else was basically between 22.6 and 27.32, and everything was in there. There was just nothing outside of that range, which was pretty wild to see. I was really shocked at how easy this was to hit, how consistent it was, and how it just produced the same little draw shot every single time. And it didn't matter how good or bad the swing felt. I just looked up and the ball had a little draw, and it was pretty much most of the time in the fairway. And when you look at when I look at like the bird's eye, view, the dispersion chart, it literally, it's in the smallest circle by a good amount. And for distance and right to left dispersion, it just was extremely consistent. The variation between shots just didn't fluctuate much. You're looking at like 5 yards or something like that, 6 yards between, best and worst shots. It just was like, it was kind of crazy. Well, no, it has to be more than that. Consistency, it calls 4.9, but there's definitely shots that were different between 4.9. 4.9 yards is definitely not the difference. But either way, the distance and the right to left consistency was just there, and you could hit it kind of all over the face a little bit. I didn't hit it a ton off the toe, but hit off the heel, it was extremely stable. And it never had, even when you made contact really low in the face or whatever, it never felt like that head was going to like kind of snap shut or anything like that. It just, as you hit the ball, it just went, and it just performed like an extremely stable, forgiving driver. I think this, compared to a lot of, let's call them 10K heads, whatever, I think this is going to be able to play in that arena, even though it's not labeled as 10K or whatever. It's going to do fine. I mean, it's extremely stable. It's easy to hit, and honestly, I mean, I just look at like what I did with it, and it was just the same shot over and over. So I'm super excited to get this on the course, see what it really does, because that's the bull tell. Now, the interesting thing too is when I first set it down, I was like, oh, it felt lighter, and then the face was also just a little bit shut. And I was like, okay, like this is going to be tough. Everything's going to be left to target. And it was the most left to target in terms of the start line, but it wasn't that far off of center. I mean, it was just a little bit left to center. And then a handful of shots that started off to the right, drew back, and were right there. So even though the face was shut a little bit, it still didn't make that ball just go wildly left. It definitely kept the ball in play. And as much as it's a super forgiving and potentially heavy draw driver, it really played pretty straight and pretty neutral. But yeah, really consistent. And in terms of numbers wise, I mean, 246.2 was the my average carry here. Really hit some solid shots of the ball spin. 26.14, so about 130 RPM less than the Elite, and about 200 RPM more than the Triple Diamond. Ball speed was 150.3, so it wasn't the fastest. Triple Diamond was a little bit faster. Launch is 12.9 though, so I was able to get that ball up. And I think, honestly, putting like Ventus Red in here would probably add just that little bit of launch, and I could probably get maybe a few more yards out of all these. But I just, I grabbed blue, something I felt comfortable with, threw it in there and played that. So 12.9 on launch. Then the apex of 88 feet, so definitely much higher, and a smash factor of 147. So really kind of similar numbers, but also very different. And like I said, the biggest thing was just the consistency with the X. But I hit the X really well, and it's one of those right when I hit it, I was like, I really want to go out and actually play it. I want to go play it on the course and see what it's like. So I unfortunately don't get to do that anytime real soon, but I definitely want to get it out there because it was pretty interesting. And I know at the end of the year there was some stuff like Johnny Wander said, was doing out there on tour, and some Max D heads started kind of being toyed around with, and the speed on them was really good, and all this stuff. I'm very interested to see what Elite X will do in a similar situation when we get to the end of the year, and everybody's kind of like, okay, I'm really looking for what I'm doing here. I don't care that it says Triple Diamond or Elite. Like if it just says, if it says X on the bottom, whatever performs the best. And I think X could be that driver again, where you could see some people jumping into there, even on tour, that will see some real speed from it, and some real consistency. But super impressed with the X. It was the one I've been hitting the best so far, so definitely something that I will continue to hit balls with and continue to see. And when my league, golf starts up here, my league and all that, it will definitely be getting some time with probably a few different shafts out there to see what goes. But and we'll see too. By the time outdoors hits and we get to the outdoor range, it could totally flip, and I could be back to hitting Elite. So it really just depends on what goes on, because outdoors on the course is what's really going to basically say, this could be a gamer or not a gamer or whatever. And then when we narrow it down to a few, it turns into a little bit of shootout, and we see what happens. So, but that's the Elite drivers. I think they're really good. I know people, for whatever reason, didn't seem as hyped about them. I think they're really good. I think they're really solid. And I think, you need to go hit all three to see which one's going to work best for you. I mean, you can look on paper and say, this will be the best one for me, but who knows? I found out, at least for right now, that the one I thought was best for me is not. So, but that is the Elite drivers from Callaway. I will definitely be getting to the 3-wood or the fairway woods as well. Sometime soon. I got a few more driver things to go through, but we'll definitely get to fairway woods also. But really solid line of drivers. I'm excited to hit some more with them and maybe try a few more shafts as well. So that's all I've got today. So it feels like it's a short episode. I know it's not, but that's all I've got. But wherever you're listening, if you could follow, subscribe, like, 5-star, whatever you do, that'd be awesome. Kind of helps the algorithm out. And then if you want to watch this on YouTube, you can. It is on, if you search Club Junkie or Golf the Bears Radio, it'll pull up there. And then it's just me sitting here at my desk showing heads in the camera. And then please again follow me on Instagram. It'd be awesome, at Club Junkie Pod. So That's all I've got. Hopefully you guys have a great weekend. Enjoy it. If you can play some golf, go out and play some golf. And yeah, we'll talk next week. And hopefully I'll have some exciting Wilson news. So we'll see you guys later.